David, with all you've announced here at GTC, what's relevant for sovereign AI?
Well, I mean, it's all relevant for sovereign AI. In many ways, it's hard to sort of break that down, but there's some really key things that came out of Jensen's keynote yesterday. One is actually NVIDIA's enabling countries to build their own infrastructure, to build that sovereignty in there. And it's not just about, the efficiency of tokens and how you can actually turn something that used to be seen traditionally as a cost center actually into a profit center and enable that. But it's much, much more to it than that. It is about really transforming those economies with AI and allowing organizations to have access to that. So what we announced was a lot of things around things like open models.
Yes.
There's a huge amount of our focus as a business in open source and open models and supporting sovereign models as well. We made some announcements about our Nemotron model as well, which we're making available. And NVIDIA's not only sharing the models themselves, but also all the training data, the model weights, all those things that enable developers to actually build on our platform. So that's very, very transformative. And I think the other thing that was very powerful as well is things like NemoClaw. Everyone's been talking about Claw in any context. We've been talking for a long time about how agents are going to start working with agents. The vast majority of AI sort of transactions will be agent to agent, right? And the ability to drive efficiencies and productivity for economies is huge. Public sector in many of the countries around the world really struggles to serve their citizens through complexity. So actually, this whole agentic movement is huge for what that means. So I think there was many things we could have taken away from the keynote yesterday.
Well, I was saying to Timo and others, you could do a Netflix series on the keynote with the amount. But I suppose then just on the sovereign AI as well, around industry, because that's a big focus as well, right?
Yeah.
It's not just the governments, you have large companies and they want to be sovereign.
Yep.
The models, everything plays into this, right?
Absolutely plays into that. I think, particularly from a European or EMEA perspective, I think, they started the first industrial revolution. Some of the companies that we engage with are over 100 years old. And everyone looks at how are they going to transform? How are they going to use AI? Oh, it's going to be very, very difficult. But actually, we're in a phase now of sort of, the post-training for domain-specific models where actually you're leveraging the core IP of those industries, that skill and expertise to deliver very specific outcomes for those industries. And I think that's Europe's opportunity. So actually, all the announcements we talked about are big enablers for that, for those industries to transform and become really competitive in the world of AI.
Now, we met up in July at NVIDIA GTC in Paris, which seems like years ago, but the pace of change. What's been going on with sovereign AI since then? And I suppose more importantly, where do you see it headed in 26?
I mean, it's so much to cover. I think pretty much
Could be here all day.
every country has really a sovereign AI strategy now. I think, geopolitics drive that to some extent, but actually every government now has a strategy, and how they go and fulfill that is different in different countries, and it also depends on the type of data. If you're dealing with maybe patient data or secure data, then you need to think of it a little bit differently. But what we've seen is a huge growth in what the industry calls neoclouds, but what we would call NVIDIA cloud partners, and they're building sovereign clouds in country, in the European Union and around that to serve the market, to enable organizations to deliver sovereign AI. But I think also then you're starting to see other initiatives which focus very much on different sectors. So you'll have seen us launch Industrial AI Cloud in Germany with Deutsche Telekom and other partners, where we're looking to transform industrial Germany with AI. So bringing those two elements together, it needs to be sovereign to support the use cases within that particular geography. But also it's all about actually how do we help the Mittelstand and other parts of the economy benefit from that. And I think if you look at Germany as an exemplar, Germany is very, very focused on data sovereignty and the importance of governance and things like that.
Yep.
And I think that's a really great exemplar of how you can go about transforming things with sovereign AI.
Now, speaking of examples, yesterday you had the panel and the chat with Marcus on sovereign AI and investing in the future. Mm-hmm. Any insights from the session?
Well, I think there's an awful lot to take from that. So Marcus Wallenberg is one of our longest partners in the world of AI. I think we started over 10 years ago with him. And he said it's a journey. He started very much on the academic side and invested in talent and PhDs and things like that. But he's seen the need to move, as an industrialist, with someone who has many different industries within his portfolio. He's very much seen how can we transform, make sure Swedish industry remains competitive. So he very much, you need to take the long-term view,
Yeah.
but also you need to be quick to react. And he's made some significant investments, even when he wasn't quite sure what an AI factory would do for him. He was like, well, are we going to be able to use it? Do we have enough demand? And his experiments was very quickly, as soon as people had access to technology, demand grew very substantially, and they had to expand the systems. And he's now just launched a new initiative called Spherical, which is across multiple industries, very different industries, from defense to financial services, pharmaceutical, exactly. And they're coming together, and they sound very different, but actually many of the use cases are similar. So they're actually collaborating on the use cases, but it's the data and the actual endpoint that is different. So whether you're looking at different things, and it's looking about building agentic platforms, transforming supply chain, you can apply those to different industries very clearly, and then just train it on that final bit of data that makes it specific for your industry.
Well, I know the man, or know of him. I'd never seen him. He's an impressive guy, and the track record speaks for itself, right? So it's day 2 here. It's like a fire hose with new things. Anything here that you've seen that's kind of gone?
I think it's the scale of physical AI this year that is really transformative. I think this is the moment for physical AI. Robotics. It is huge. It is everywhere.
It is everywhere.
Every machine will be a robot. From the broadest context that a building will be a robot, to the robots that move from humanoids to autonomous vehicles, things like that. Moving things to the physical world is really where I think a lot of people will see AI in action. It will be a thing. And as I mentioned earlier, productivity is a huge issue for us. We don't have enough labor in many sectors. And actually, I think this is the point where we'll see that transformation. And with leveraging large language models and that, the ability to train and do these things is going to accelerate massively. And there's so many people focused on various elements of that, actually building that intelligence, building the robotic brain, if you like, for a very simple way of looking at it. The ability to accelerate that is tremendous, and therefore we're going to see significant progress. I think a lot of people thought, humanoids and the robots were, years out.
Yeah, nice shiny toy, but
exactly.
Can't use it.
And what you can clearly see is they're here.
Well,
they're happening.
Having been around for the last 2 days, there are a lot of humanoids, and it's not just the nice dancing robots, it's industrial robots with industrial use cases right across the board. So this stuff is happening. It's been a busy 2 days already. It's going to be another couple of fun days. So hey, thank you very much.
Thank you.